Greetings, friends. It's another beautiful day here in Hawaii. Oh, well, yesterday I was out in the garden working on sweet corn and a few other things when my neighbor Gary pulled up. And, he came on around, just kind of hung out there and gave me a hand with a couple of things. And I just kept working. And as we were going along, Gary brings me eggs, and so he's had lately plenty of sweet corn and tomatoes in return, and so he commented on just how good that Hawaiian number 10 super sweet corn tastes. Just incredible. He's going on about it, and actually a couple days before, I had some viewers out in the patch, and the lady picked up an ear I had rejected and tossed into the field, and she picked it up, was chewing on it, and going, "Whoa, is this good?" I'll go, "Well, that's the rejects." Okay. Yeah, and so I've done videos before about the flavors of food, about our tastes and, what we eat and what it tastes like and how it gets to taste that way and so on. But it just kind of seems to me it might be time for another one of those. I've been reminded about food flavors quite a bit lately. People are asking me about the pineapples, the white pineapples. Are they ready yet? Do you have the white pineapples? Well, I have plenty of slips. No, not so much for fruit yet. Probably coming up in August and September, I would say. That's what it looks like. We'll be starting to pick. But that's another one, people from all over, just don't matter whether they came from the mainland, other islands, wherever it is, local, everybody, wow, best pineapple in the world, man. That pineapple tastes so good. And it's true. If you've only eaten, the yellow ones that Dole raises, they're pretty good, a lot of them, actually, as far as fruit in the marketplace goes, but not always. The ones with the jet tags on them used to be the best. I don't even know if they still have those. But the white pineapple slays them. Okay, and I found from experimenting with pineapples, there is no such thing as pineapple taste per se. That just about every piece of fruit I've grown out there, different varieties, is a little bit different. Yeah, they're a little bit different. And they all have their strong and weak points, I guess. I remember back in Fremont, where I had concluded that the climate in Fremont, California, was probably the absolute most perfect place on the planet for the raising of a Fuji apple. Yeah, I have never eaten a Fuji apple that was as good as the ones we got from our trees, in that area. Oh, no, not ever. They were so delicious. I used to bite into them, and that juice would just run out all over me, and it was like apple juice concentrate, man. It was so sweet and delicious. And I feel sad that, Ellen and I can experience that. A few members of the garden club or some of my clients that knew about our apples, they could experience it. But otherwise, the rest of you had to eat apples from the store, and some of them are pretty good. I eat a lot of apples from the store living in Hawaii because they don't grow where the darn here. I have flowers in my tree. Okay. So there's always hope, and I have picked a few, but it's not a place for apples. If I get anything that looks like an apple and kind of tastes like an apple over here, I'm happy, which is an issue. The white pineapple here is just unbelievably delicious. But I used to bring the slips back into California, and I'd plant them there. And, I'd use a hoop house and so on, shelter them from the cold, and the plants would grow fine, without any problems with the weather because of the conditions. But never get a piece of fruit on those plants in California that even come close to the ones that were sitting out in the Hawaiian sun here on this volcanic soil. No, not even close. I actually gave up bothering to try to raise them in California, other than that when I'd bring them back with me, I would take the tops off, put them in pots, sell them to somebody later on as a white pineapple plant, but I wouldn't bother fruiting them. I'd eat the ones we had here. You know, same sort of goes with papayas. I love papayas. Yes. They have papin in them, which is a good digestive aid. Sometimes I have a little trouble with my guts. So it's a real good thing for me to have every morning, half a papaya, next to my breakfast. And they grow pretty well here, too. Yeah, that's one reason that Hawaii is a papaya-producing state, is because it's a well-adapted crop in our area, and they will produce almost year-round. That's beauty, huh? Yeah. But when they pick them, I see the trucks go by. The trucks that are heading to the port to take them to the mainland and places, those poor papayas are hard green rocks. I see them and I go, oh my goodness, really? I don't know if they gas them once they get there, how they treat these things once they arrive where they're going, but they leave here green and hard as a rock. Yet in the farmer's market here, you can get some of the most delicious tasting papayas on earth. And that's because the ones on the table at the farmer's market at a discount price, they're the ones that are so ripe, they can't ship them. They can't do anything with them. They can manage to get them from the plant to the farmer's market, and that's about it. But they are so good. Or out here in my garden, when I'm on the edge that the geckos are going to bite a hole in that thing, it's ripening on the stalk. Boy, they're good. Oh, they're good. There's a lot of variation in papaya depending on what stage it was picked at. Yeah, I see that. I see that. It's all edible, and so I'm concerned in a way that a whole lot of Americans have never actually tasted the food that they eat, because most of us shop in the markets. I know I have shopped in the markets, and yes, it is possible occasionally to find something in a market, in a supermarket, that's pretty darn good quality. I'm referring to produce now. That will be pretty good. Or some things, like a potato, or like the way we raise bananas and stuff. Iceberg lettuce, there's one. Tastes the same in my garden as it does in the supermarket. There's nothing you can do to that stuff to make it any better. Yeah, some things, there's not a lot of difference, But other things there are. Even a carrot. Now, it depends. Carrots kind of respond to the conditions they're under a lot. I haven't lived two places on this earth where a carrot grew the same. Tastes will vary, the way they develop varies. Yeah, I find it's a very sensitive vegetable. And so far, the finest carrots I have ever raised were while living in northern Wisconsin. Nice, cool seasons. It's not very hot up there. We had nice sandy loam silt type soils. It's loose, grew great potatoes and stuff. And using a carrot seed called Nelson, I used to be able to grow carrots that were so incredibly tender that when I harvested, I had to be careful, because if I threw them, they'd shatter like orange glass. Yes, I remember just pulling carrots, going down a row, I'm stooping over, I'm pulling carrots, throwing them behind me. I turn around and I look, and I got a pile of shreds. The things were just exploding as they hit the ground. I go, oh my goodness. And they were so full of sugar. Yeah, they were just so good. Now, I've grown that same carrot seed here. I've grown it in California, and it performs, but never been able to duplicate that. Never. And the quality was significant difference. I mean, it was almost like night and day. And so it isn't just what you're growing variety and how you're growing it. It's also where you're growing it as far as how it's going to come out. I wouldn't say it's an argument of mine, but it is a suggestion of mine. I'm well aware, because I have people from all over the place, all the way out to Maine and Wisconsin, asking me for tropical seed, that they want to try to grow tropical fruit plants wherever they're at. Well, the best tropical fruit I ever raised away from the tropics was I had pretty darn good bananas in California. But otherwise, the guavas I raised there, they're all right. They weren't real good. The same goes with the pineapples. They looked like a pineapple, but yet in the same yard, the apples were incredible. Okay, so fruits within their climates are really, what you're looking for. Yeah, and it isn't just vegetables and fruit either that affects this. Ellen's, made relationships with some of the local fishermen over here, and she's been picking up mahi-mahi, ahi, a lot of ahi. Oh, Hawaii's got so much ahi tuna. And, we've grown to really like it, too. It becomes one of my... ahi and chicken, I think I don't eat more meat than that. But, well... when I lived in California, all the ahi we ever had around that I got my hands on was frozen, all right? And maybe it was also the way I was cooking it, too, but it always seemed to come out tough. Anyway, I wasn't very impressed with it, and I actually thought it gave me diverticulitis, that the fiber would get jammed up in me. I moved over here and I started eating the local stuff the fishermen brought in. I discovered something real fast. You go to one place and you buy poke. That's raw ahi with seasonings. And it's wonderful. Okay. You go to another place, you get poke. And it's, poke, but no big deal. Not real special. Well, when you dig into it, what you find out is, the really good stuff, that was the ahi that was just brought in, and the stuff that was just passable, it had been frozen. And it's common on the island even. I mean, sometimes you come here in Hawaii, where we got lots of tuna, and you buy poke, you're going to get frozen tuna harvested from Japan. Yeah, you will. And it is not the same. And even our local tuna, when Ellen buys a great big slab of the fish and brings it home, and I have to take it and I have to prepare it, cut it up, divide it, bag it, put it away in our freezer and decide how things are going to be done. Well, I used to, prepare fresh whatever we could eat that day, and most of the rest of it would get cut down and put in the freezer. Well, I realized something pretty quick. Every time I made poke from the fresh ahi, it was fabulous. I get compliments from everyone. Oh, Bill, you make such good poke. Every time I take the stuff out of the freezer that had been the same fish, it was okay. Yeah, it was okay. That was it. It wasn't superior. Just the freezing. And I mean, maybe only 2 weeks, in the freezer. I'm not talking about something sat in there for 6 months. Just a week or two in the freezer, and already the quality. Yeah, the flavor not the same. The texture not quite the same. This is very subtle. It is. You have to kind of be doing this over and over and have a lot of exposure to it before you start to see the pattern. Yeah, it took me a while. And so now I make all of my poke fresh when it comes into the house, and everything that goes in the freezer ends up becoming ahi burgers, or I'll make ceviche. Ceviche works out from frozen fish. So, but yeah, even fish, even the fish, just about anything I could think of. I've been standing out there in gardens with people and had one experience, and that is that I'd walk by a bunch of English peas that were nice and ripe, big full pods, and I go, "Oh, look at these beautiful peas. Here, try some." And I'd pop a pod and hand it to them. And I remember the two that I did that to before, they were vegetarians. They said, "Oh, we don't eat peas." I said, "Well, how have you eaten peas?" "Oh, well, we've had like frozen ones or canned ones." I said, "Have you ever had a fresh pea out of the pod?" "Well, no." "Try." And it's like, whoa. Yeah. it's amazing the reaction you'll see on people's faces when they taste something fresh off of the vine for the first time. Yeah, but then again, there's the reverse on that, and that's that we have so much artificial flavoring today. So much of the flavors that we're used to are not actually the flavors that they're supposed to be, and we get used to them. And some of them are very intense, too, and we get used to them. And, well, I recall, I love English butterscotch. Yeah, and Jolly & Bowser, who's my favorite manufacturer over in England, they've been out of business for years. And so, periodically, I get this urge to go search through Amazon to see if I can find an alternate replacement for that butterscotch. Well, it turns out I did find one. Now, there's an English manufacturer that is making a very similar product. Similar. Anyway, it's good stuff. But I was reading all the reviews on it while I was trying to evaluate what I was doing there. And well, they were all pretty much Americans eating English butterscotch, and a ubiquitous comment was, well, it was, okay, but it didn't have the same kind of intense flavor that American butterscotch had. The butterscotch is bland, they were saying. Well, the English stuff is natural. All American butterscotch that I've ever had has artificial flavorings. And so Americans the taste of butterscotch for Americans is an artificial taste. It isn't actually the taste of butterscotch. This has happened to me. Yeah, it's happened to me. I recall the one year my cherry tree, sweet cherry tree, a Stella, compact Stella, in the backyard in California, it was loaded. Oh, I had so many cherries. And I go, oh man, what am I going to do with all these cherries? So I start thinking about it. I go, well, I haven't had a cherry milkshake in a long time. I'm going to make myself one. So I went and got myself some vanilla ice cream, and pulled out the blender. And I threw a pile of cherries in there, and I whipped this stuff up and took it and poured myself out a nice cold frosty glass of cherry milkshake, and went, don't taste right. Tastes like prunes. That was my reaction. I think, well, it's because we do not use sweet cherries to make any kind of a cherry preparation, other than maybe if you buy black cherry juice, you're getting the sweet cherry juice. Otherwise, we just eat sweet cherries fresh out of the hand. That's about all we do with them. I think Trader Joe's has some dried ones. I've seen some dried sweet cherry. But when it comes to cherry flavoring, and that is, no matter if it's a coffee cake, a Danish, a cherry jam, a cherry pie, a cherry milkshake, none of it is actually sweet cherry flavor. If you're real lucky, you have the original tart cherry. The pie cherry is what the flavor that we call cherry. But most of the time, that flavor is accentuated by using an extract from a bitter almond. And so what we think is cherry, the smell of a lifesaver, and all that, that's bitter almond extract, folks. Now, it's a natural flavoring, okay, but it's not cherries. It's in the prunus, so it's in the same family with cherries, but it's not a cherry. Boy, that was my experience. I felt kind of dumb. I'm pretty smart about food. And when I did that, I'm going, why did I do this? The thing was drinkable, but not a cherry milkshake. Not at all. And I've seen it, too, with people who are familiar only with processed foods for the most part. They don't get much food right off of a tree, right out of the ground, Well, those flavors oftentimes can be very intense. I remember squeezing a glass of fresh orange juice off my tree for a guy, handing it to him, and watching his eyes whirl, that he had never basically tasted anything called orange that was that intense in flavor. He really wasn't very happy with it, because he was used to things like tang, or artificial orange flavorings and stuff. We have been trained to this. That includes me. Yeah, that includes me. I got the problem too. But I tell you, when you can grow a crop in the right setting, using the right seed, and bring it to absolute perfection, whatever it is, man, there is nothing like it on earth. It's an experience you really won't ever forget. Yeah, that's... Well, alrighty. That's a little bit about flavors of food. Folks all hang loose. Aloha.